Bring your cup and take a seat. Fill it up, coffee, wine, or tea. Come find what you're looking for. A good pour.
Welcome back to A Good Pour. I am Kathryn Good, your host. Today I have a very special guest with us. John DeBerry served in the Tennessee House of Representatives for more than 25 years, and he now serves as a senior advisor to Governor Lee. He's also a minister, a leader, and someone who has spent his life thinking deeply about faith, service, and responsibility. You have helped shape conversations in Tennessee for decades. So it is fun as a podcast who's telling people stories. It is fun and an honor to have you on today. So thanks for joining us.
To be here.
So I'm going to kick it off with you've served in both public service and politics and ministry. Mm-hmm. What first led you to that type of work?
To politics?
And then ministry too. I want to cover them both.
Well, my family will answer both of those questions. My father and mother were very active in the 60s during the civil rights era, the anti-abortion era, just before it was approved by the Supreme Court. And my father and I marched in some of the marches with Dr. King. My dad traveled around the country with the various movements and various marches and events. And so we've always been politically active. And my father was one of those individuals. My grandparents and great-grandparents were Eisenhower Republicans. My parents were the first to vote Democrat when John Kennedy ran for president, and that caused a big rift in the family. But I ran for office the first time. I ran for city council in Memphis during the early 80s. Thank goodness I lost. And but what it did do was set me on a path of learning how to run an election, how to win an election, and how to connect with the people that I was asking to vote for me. I didn't do that very well as a younger man, but I learned over a period of time how to go to the voters, how to talk to them, not at them, how to speak about their issues, how to make them believe that I would deal with those issues, and then how to serve, keeping my word, holding myself accountable and responsible to the promises I had made. And they elected me 13 times in District 90 in Memphis. And I had the pleasure of serving that district. As a minister, my father preached over 30 years, so I sat at his feet as a boy. And one of the things I always wanted to be was a minister. That was part of learning how to be a leader in our culture and our families and the Black and African-American community at that time. The church, of course, was the catalyst of the civil rights movement, of many of the education movements, and many of the things that we think that are important. The seeds were planted within the church.
Absolutely. So what does good work mean to you?
Good work to me, I believe, the way I've always approached my job is as a privilege of, first of all, listening to people, what they need, what they say. I have always believed that you can't make good public policy without good public input. And if you listen to people long enough, you'll find out what's important to them. You'll also find out that we're more similar than we are different, that the majority of us want the same things. We want to educate our children. We want to make a good living. We want to be able to provide for our families, have a roof over our heads. We want to have safe communities. These are the things that seem to be boilerplate political issues, but the problem is, they don't become the good works that a lot of my colleagues around the country truly make happen and come to fruition for the people that they serve. I believe one of the ways I've approached politics is that every problem has a limited lifespan. It takes us sitting down at the table, talking to each other, not at each other, finding camaraderie, finding agreement, finding the solution. I'm a little bit disappointed in what I see right now. I see, even in our state, in our legislature here in the state, I see folks being adversarial, personal attacks, and that doesn't serve the people. You can't get anything good done when those who you have elected to do that good are more concerned about their personal agendas and advocacies than they are doing the work of the people.
One of the things I wanted to ask you about is it seems when I talk to my parents, we either think it was worse back then or we've gotten better or we've gotten worse. And it feels like with division, that's definitely something that seems worse. Would you agree with that?
I think the division is worse not because we haven't always had adversarial relationships. We've always had divisions. We've always had Democrats, Republicans, Northern, Southerners, the rich, the poor, the black, the white. We can name all of those various separations and idiosyncrasies that divided us. But the difference is we made a decision that we were going to put the people and the country first, before my personal agenda, my personal opinion, my personal desires. And for that reason, I think we got a whole lot more done. I don't think that folks, I don't think the problems are larger. I don't think that people are worse. I just think that our approach to politics in the country right now is extremely divisive, short-sighted, and we are not showing vision, leadership, and maturity when it comes to dealing with the various political issues.
What have you learned about leadership specifically, and what lesson would you tell each of them, especially just looking at, not just the state of Tennessee, but as a country?
Well, I've been extremely blessed in so many different categories. I work with a good man in Governor Bill Lee. Governor Lee is a praying man. He's a family man. He is a man who's gone through tragedy in his life, and he and I talk about that. We both have gone through things, and we talk about that to the extent of getting outside of ourselves and looking. We're not most certainly not perfect, and we make mistakes. But I would rather work with a man who will admit this may not have been the best decision or the best approach, or may not have been the best policy, and then change, than that individual who is so rigid and narrow focus that they can't see that change. Democrats and Republicans. I work with Speaker Nafee. I also work with Speaker Beth Harwell, Democrat and Republican. And what I found is that when people reach across the aisle, when we don't allow the R or the D to define us, but we allow the needs of the people, the good works, to define us, we always find solutions. And that's what I appreciated most about my service in the House. Also, my father was a leader, and I admire him and my mother very much because they taught not just me, but my brothers and my sisters, all of whom are very involved all of our lives in the community. Both of my brothers are businessmen, but they are also ministers. My sisters were women who married and were church involved, but they were also active in the community, and business women also. So I think that when we allow ourselves to be multidimensional, like yourself and what you're doing in the Chamber of Commerce and the podcast and getting opinions out there. I think when we think innovative, when we think outside the box, I think we find solutions that are going to be also outside the box.
From a perspective from where I'm sitting, there doesn't seem to be a lot of going across the aisle. Do you see that still? Is it happening and we're just not seeing it from a media perspective? Is it, or what do we need to do to improve that?
Well, I think that a lot of folks have forgotten what it means to be a public servant, what it means to be an elected or appointed official. I can be an advocate. Before I was elected, I was an advocate. I worked I worked for those conservative values that I thought were important. As an advocate, I can decide who I want to deal with, who I don't want to deal with, who I want to agree with, and who I don't. But when I put my name on the ballot and the people elected me and gave me the extreme privilege of being one of the few in the history of the state of Tennessee, I think less than 500 men and women, maybe 300 men and women, who have sat on that floor and had the privilege of making laws that affect the people. When I raise my hand, I take that oath of office and I sign that oath, I'm not an advocate anymore. I am not a community leader anymore. I'm a legislator. And in Washington, D.C., and in state houses and state senates all over this country, men and women have forgotten that you took an oath of office, and your oath of office required by the Constitution that you sit down and do the people's business. And what we see now, we see folks running off the floor, running to other states. We see them fighting on the floor, cussing each other out. I've never heard so much foul language from elected. That would have been the kiss of death 30 years ago. But now foul language has become part of the common vernacular. And I think that people at some point need to be outraged, and they need to remove these people from office.
We got to vote to do that.
Yes, that's true.
What are you most proud of?
I am most proud of the fact that I represent 3 generations of men and women who did not have the blessings that I have, and that my children have, and that my grandchildren have. I have 2 daughters. One is an attorney, one is a therapist. I have 2 granddaughters. One just graduated from Ole Miss, the other is a junior at UT Knoxville. They are the descendants of Mary and Enos Garrett, who were the descendants of slaves, who could not, Mary could read some, Enos could not read. Starlin and Susie Hall, and Pearl and John DeBerry. When I think about, I'm most proud of the fact that what they gave us to work with, we used it. We did not squander our blessings. They worked hard to see that we had a good education, a good home, that we were children of faith, that we went to church, that we weren't rich, but we were never hungry, we were never ragged, and we were never without a place to sleep. And so I am most proud right now that I have served my state for 30 years now, both on the legislative side and the executive side. And I have done it as a result of the upbringing that I was given by folks who did not have the blessings that I have.
And most of that time you served as a Democrat,
Yes.
right? And now you are counsel to a Republican governor.
Now I am a Republican.
That's rare, right?
Well, the thing is, I am who I've always been. When I ran for office in 1994 and won and sworn in 1995, everybody knew my conservative values. They understood that my belief on marriage, on life, on parental choice and parental responsibility and parental authority. They understood that I was a consensus maker, that I'm the type of person who believes that if we're not fighting for who gets the credit, we can solve any problem. I always reached across the aisle. I could always pass a bill with Republican and Democrat contributing to that bill, because that's what I believe a good public servant does. My party, so when people elected me, they didn't elect me because I was a Democrat. The district was Democrat. As a matter of fact, the district, when I won in 95, had been a Republican district for almost 100 years. And it was redrawn to be a Democratic district. Republicans and Democrats came to me and asked me to run because they said I would be the person that could pull both sides together and keep the community going in the right direction. So when it was decided that when the Democratic Party, as Ronald Reagan said, the party left me. I didn't leave it, it left me. And the values that I stand for fit better where I am than they did within the party.
Yeah. I think nowadays, like it's if you are not totally Republican, you can be called a rhino.
Sure.
Right? I'm guessing you were called something like a conservative Democrat or something along those lines.
Worse.
And worse. But how, it's I think it's hard as someone who wants to make a difference and who wants to stand up on issues I care about, but I might care about different things that they may not all line on the same side of the ticket. How do we get things done? I mean, and not, I mean, you've spoken it already. We're calling each other names and with foul language and everything else, but it's hard to try to make a difference and to try to stand up for something and then immediately be called names now, right?
That is so true. I think that regardless of whether you're a Democrat or Republican, love, hate can't stand the sight of President Trump. He is president right now because of people like you. Because the legacy media, like it, hate it, I'm not trying to get into that issue, was not necessarily telling folks the whole story, and if not the true story. It has taken shows like your show all over this nation for folks to step back from the spoon-fed propaganda that they were being given to actually look at the issues. Whether they agree or disagree, you deserve the truth. You deserve a sensible and passionate discussion of the issue. And that's not what was happening. And, somebody goes in one direction, they're called a rhino. Somebody goes in another direction, they're called a bigot or a racist or even worse. And I think that when we start getting into personal attacks, we lose not just our leverage, but we lose the public trust to do what they elected us or appointed us to do.
Well, and it's hard to have conversations that advance anything.
Yeah, this is so true. This is so true. One of the things I decided a long time ago, and I learned from good men, Bill Purcell was the majority leader. He was mayor of Nashville for a while, but Bill was the majority leader when I was sworn in 1995. Well, like a lot of folks, I'm going to save the world. So I'm talking on every bill. I'm popping up out of my seat. I want folks to know how smart I am because I'm here to save the state of Tennessee. He came and he stood beside my desk one day, and he just stood there in his Bill Purcell type of persona with his hands behind his back and his head down. And he looked over at me and said, "You do know you don't have to speak on every bill." And I said, "Yes, sir." And I learned to be quiet, and I learned to listen. And then I became a legislator, not just somebody popping up wanting folks to know that I can talk, but I became an individual that when I spoke, it meant something. When I spoke, people listened. And when I spoke, it has consequences. And I think that right now there are too many folks who are looking for the camera and for the microphone and for their next headshot or their next sound bite, rather than being folks that say things that are consequential and things that folks can repeat and it actually means something.
Man, that's so good. So good. How has faith shaped all of this?
Well, the faith is the foundation. If I were not a man of faith, I probably wouldn't be here. Capitol Hill is a very intoxicating place, whether that's Nashville, Jackson, Little Rock, Washington, D.C.
Gallatin.
Gallatin. That's right. It's a very intoxicating place. And one thing my dad gave me some advice. He gave me that advice twice. When I went to college at Freed-Hardeman, we were integrating the schools. And my dad said, "You have my name, boy. Don't mess it up." Well, that meant a lot to me. I'm John Jefferson DeBerry Jr. I have his name. And when I was sworn in that day, the second Tuesday in January 1995, he was standing right there looking at me, and I have a picture of it. And before he left town, he said the same thing. "You have my name, boy. Don't mess up my name." And I remember that whenever I get ready to make a decision. The people that I trust and care about, the issues that I believe in and fight for, I have to remember that we're making history. You and I are making history right now. And at some point, we have to keep in mind that it's not fleeting. You don't say it and it dissipates and disappears. You say it and it has consequences, positive or negative. What my faith has done is make me look within myself, take an introspective examination of myself, realize I'm not perfect. I'm not the smartest person in the room. I still have a lot to learn. And if I listen, what comes out of my mouth makes a whole lot more sense. But that's because I was taught that at church. I was taught that by my parents.
Right. Are those the main lessons you're still teaching your granddaughters?
Oh, yeah. I love them. They are some resilient young ladies. My youngest granddaughter, her first 2 years, she was a long jumper for the University of Tennessee. So she made the SEC track team.
Wow.
And but she is also an engineering student, and it's very trying, as you know.
My husband was a student at UTK engineering school, so we know.
Yes,
we know.
Yes.
I used to drive to pick him up on the back of the hill because he was so tired, and just never got to see him because he was always studying. So I don't know if you've spent any time up on that hill, but it's
I bet my granddaughter has.
She has. She has for sure.
And I look at her lessons, and she has stuff on the paper that I don't even recognize. It may as well be Chinese. But she decided this year to concentrate on engineering. So she's not running track this year. She's not long jumping. And I think that was a very mature decision that she made. She loves sports. Both of my granddaughters and both of my daughters were athletes. But each of them understood when it was time to concentrate on academics. And so I'm very proud that we were able to pass over the resilience, the strength. We don't know how to quit. My parents just didn't. I remember when we integrated, if you don't mind me saying this.
No, please do.
We integrated the schools in 1968 in Crockett County. Wonderful experience, great experience. And I remember coming home because of my insecurities. Nobody had said anything or done anything. Those kids were good Christian kids also there in Alamo, Tennessee, where we moved from Memphis because my dad was transferred. And I came home with some complaint, something that made me feel bad. And I felt maybe somebody looked at me the wrong way or something. And my dad didn't even miss a lick. And I kept complaining. Really, the thing was, we all wanted to be back with our friends. And he eventually said to me, he just asked me, okay, so what are you going to do about it? That was it. What are you going to do about it? And at that time, black folks, the common term was colored. You had colored and white. And he said, eventually, he said, Nick, he called me Nick. He said, you can't stop being colored, boy. So you may as well stop being scared. In essence, that was a life lesson right there at the table between bites in his chicken leg that have stuck with me for over 50 years. That if we concentrate on what we can change, some things we can't change. Nobody gave us a choice of our parents or our ethnicity or our DNA. We didn't get those choices, but we choose whether we're positive or negative. We choose whether we appreciate the other person or the other person's differences. We choose whether we're going to do everything we can to be a help and not a hindrance. And those are choices. And I think that when we make those type of choices, we don't just make Tennessee better, we make the world better.
Amen.
And I'm hoping that this next generation can do a lot better than some have done.
So that was my next question. We've talked a lot about things that could be improved. Where do you see hope?
Oh, I see hope in this young folks. They are something else. I think that, people can talk, I don't know what the terms are these days, Gen X, Gen Z, millennials, or whatever, but I'm looking at my grandchildren. And one of my colleagues, Miss Arnold, who is in Minority Affairs there at the state, was showing me pictures of her niece going to the Navy. These kids have their heads screwed on right. They want to serve the country. They want to serve their community. They're not asking for handouts. They're not looking for stuff free. They want to earn it. And I think that goes back to the same principles that my generation were told. Nobody owes you anything but an opportunity and a chance. One of the things I really appreciate about Governor Lee, he said this in one of his State of the State speeches. He says, we can't guarantee outcome. That's on the person, but we will guarantee opportunity. And if you guarantee this generation opportunity, they're going to knock it out of the park. And that's where I have hope. I see it at church. When my kids come home from college during the summer, on Sunday morning, they're all at church. And it makes you feel wonderful to think that they have that type of vision and that type of commitment, that they understand that that's going to make them better people.
I'm definitely seeing revival in this. This young.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's refreshing.
It is
see.
refreshing.
Yeah,
it is refreshing.
I love that. Looking at the state of Tennessee, what is your kind of immediate hope? Like, not we talked about the next generation, but what in the next several years? What's your hope for Tennessee?
My hope for Tennessee is that we continue to lead. Tennessee has always led. We led in civil rights. We led in women's rights. Tennessee was instrumental in the crusade for life, regardless of which side people might be on that issue. The state of Tennessee took a stand with the heartbeat bill. I would hope that the men and women who lead in the state of Tennessee will get out of the echo chambers to where there are people who are telling them how they should speak, what they should think, what they should fight for, and what's important. And look at the demographics of the state of Tennessee. And we are very multidimensional, multicultural, but at the same time, there is a strong sense of self in the state of Tennessee. And I would hope in the future that we don't lose that. I know that we have people migrating here from all over the country and all over the world for that matter. I would hope that we maintain our uniqueness and that we stand for the things that we've always stood for.
Yeah. The courageous volunteer culture. We
Absolutely.
We can't lose it.
We cannot lose that.
Yeah. One more question I would say is I feel like there's always opportunity to be in public service. There is, at least in my circle, there can be hesitant to run to serve in that way because of some of the examples that we see, some of it is the name calling but
Sure.
what is the reward for public service? And what would you say to people that might be thinking about it that maybe need that encouragement?
The reward is when people walk up to you that you don't know and tell you, I thank you for something you said on the floor. I made a speech on the floor a few years ago when all the rioting was going on, and it went viral. It went all over the world. I had no idea. It was that moment when they kept saying civil rights, and I'm thinking, that's not the civil rights that my father marched for, and Dr. King and others marched for. Black and white, Jew, Gentile, rich and poor joined hands and changed the country. And I remember standing up and saying that we should take a look at ourselves and make sure that we are not losing ourselves. I hope and I pray that the state of Tennessee, because of all that we have that God has given us, I mean, we are a beautiful state, and we have some wonderful people. I just would love to see folks look at Tennessee and say, that's the way it ought to be. We're the most well-managed state in the country. We get that accolade every year. And I think we have some of the most friendly people in the country. I hope we don't lose our character.
Yeah. Will you close in prayer?
Absolutely. Merciful God, our Father in heaven, we thank you for this day and for the blessings that you have given us. We thank you for this opportunity to talk about issues, to talk about you, to talk about our fellow man, our brothers and sisters. And we thank you for those who do this and help to inform the people of the state of Tennessee, the people of this area, so that we will know what is good, what is best, to serve the least, the last, the little, and the lost. We thank you so much for all you've done for us and the way you've looked over us and given us wisdom, and by your providential care, you continue to take care of us. We ask you, Father, to be with our host. Make this podcast a beacon of light and understanding and communication that will serve as an example of what can be done when men and women put you first and put the people that are around them and their service as a priority. We thank you for all you do for us each and every day. It's in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
You're welcome.